The United States is currently in the early days of a government shutdown with no agreement in hand, and a federal budget expert warns that two upcoming deadlines may become pivotal in forcing a resolution. The first date is October 10th, when essential federal workers will miss their paychecks if the shutdown continues without action. The second is October 15th, when members of the military could go without payment. According to publicly available schedules, those are the next scheduled pay dates for civilian federal employees and for military service members. The expert argues that once those paydays pass, political pressure will intensify radically. Richard Stern, who directs a federal budget center at a policy institute, highlights that both parties are attempting to shift blame onto the other, but neither will want the responsibility of essential workers or troops going unpaid. Thus, these dates become key leverage points in the negotiation. Stern notes that the shutdown began when a compromised temporary funding bill was rejected. On one side, party leaders are accusing their opponents of forcing a shutdown, insisting that provisions such as extending tax credits under the Affordable Care Act must be included in any deal, something the other side rejects. Some legislators have even admitted that shutting down the government was a deliberate decision to pressure the opposition. Meanwhile, Stern likens the strategy to making a dramatic scene by stomping feet, suggesting that politicians have escalated tactics rather than pursuing more moderate approaches. He also warns that as time goes on, the risk of cascading failures in government services will grow, and the longer essential funding is withheld, the more strain various programs face. One particularly vulnerable area is air traffic control and other personnel in aviation. Even when shutdowns end, these workers often receive back pay, but prolonged gaps can cause severe disruption. In a past shutdown, multiple air traffic controllers called in sick, leading to ground stops and cascading flight delays. This kind of disruption, Stern argues, underscores how quickly emergency conditions may arise. Stern also points out that the White House may deploy certain pre-appropriated funds built into previous legislation to ensure pay for service members, Homeland Security personnel, and others in critical roles. If that happens, it could offer the opposition a lifeline by relieving some of the immediate pressure. But he cautions that this would be a stopgap, not a substitute for a long-term agreement. Democratic leaders have insisted that funding legislation must preserve health tax credits beyond the end of this year, a demand that clashes with Republican priorities. Some critics view this as a high-stakes gamble. By tying essential services to partisan goals, they risk alienating public opinion if workers and troops suffer. Stern argues that if the shutdown stretches past the pay deadlines, things may spiral out of control, and the urgency for a deal would grow, whatever it means. He warns that the political cost will escalate sharply. Whichever party is seen as responsible will bear the public's ire. In sum, those two looming pay dates, October 10th for federal employees and October 15 for military personnel, are likely to serve as critical inflection points. If the shutdown remains unresolved beyond those days, the mounting economic and public pressure may force a breakthrough. But the longer the standstill persists, the greater the risk of cascading failures across key government functions.